They've spent centuries obscuring the very key to your liberation. Not your heart, not your brain, but the pineal gland, that minuscule, light-sensitive sentinel nestled deep within your mind. Ancient civilizations revered it as the throne of consciousness, the bridge between worlds. Thoth, the immortal architect of wisdom and sacred science, didn't just whisper about enlightenment. He architected it, leaving behind not mere mysticism, but a potent methodology, a structured pathway, encoded in symbol, ritual, and the very architecture of the body. Somewhere along the way, humanity was induced to forget, deliberately steered astray. This inner eye was never meant to be opened because its awakening transforms everything. Perception transcends the confines of the material, dissolving the illusion of control. This is not speculative fiction. It's the convergence of physiology, consciousness, and the immutable laws of the cosmos. You are not here to be idly amused. You are here to awaken. So the pineal gland, begin. To most, the pineal gland is a footnote in a biology textbook, a fleeting mention of a vestigial structure, dismissed and forgotten. A tiny cone, smaller than a grain of rice, residing in the brain's core. But to the ancients, its size belied its significance. It was the gateway, the interdimensional portal connecting the earthly and the divine, the organ granting communion with the infinite expanse of consciousness. The Egyptians etched its likeness in stone, the Hindus crowned it the third eye, and the Greeks sanctified it as the soul's sanctuary. Today it faces ignorance, ridicule, or more insidiously, systematic suppression. Pause and reflect. Why would prevailing systems intentionally conceal what ancient wisdom deemed sacred? Because this gland, this seemingly insignificant relic, is your receiver, your inner compass guiding you to profound truth. It transduces light, not merely photons of the physical realm, but subtle energies, metaphysical insights, and frequencies that circumvent the limitations of the five senses. And what unfolds when activation begins? Doubt dissolves, replaced by a profound remembering of inherent knowledge. You cease reacting to external stimuli and begin perceiving not merely with physical eyes, but with the singular eye they sought to blind. Their strategy extends beyond mere neglect. They assail it with fluoride, inundate it with blue light, and program you with the fallacy of its insignificance. Is this merely coincidence? That your drinking water happens to contain a substance known to calcify this vital gland, rendering it dormant and sluggish? That your lifestyle conveniently subjects you to disruptive light frequencies, derailing your circadian rhythm and hindering melatonin production, a critical secretion of the pineal? You weren't merely taught to disregard your inner vision. You were meticulously conditioned to forget its very existence. As its brilliance diminished, so too did your perceptive abilities. You began to perceive only surfaces, schedules, and screens. Logic became synonymous with truth, and the invisible was relegated to the realm of fantasy. But Thoth never spoke in the language of logic. His discourse was woven from symbols, metaphors designed not to obscure, but to reveal truths beyond the capacity of words. The pineal doesn't respond to rational arguments. It resonates with vibration, frequency, and focused intention. As you attune to these frequencies, remembrance ignites. You recall that you are far more than your name, your occupation, or the roles you play. You are pure awareness, flowing through form, reaching ever upward, ever inward, to the boundless. The profound nature of Thoth's teachings necessitates discretion, particularly on platforms like YouTube. Therefore, we invite you to join our free Insights Academy newsletter, where we delve into subjects too sensitive for public discourse. As a special gift, new subscribers receive a complimentary copy of the Kybalion. Simply click the link in the description. The reason this gland is so vehemently opposed by those seeking dominion is that it anchors you to something impervious to systemic control, the unmediated experience of the infinite. The pineal demands no dogma, seeks no permission. This intrinsic authority undermines the power structures of religion, science, and media, all of which have dedicated lifetimes to discrediting it. Awakening dismantles the need for intermediaries between you and the divine. You embody the living temple, the initiate, the priest, and the altar. Thoth sought no blind faith. His imperative was know thyself. The pineal gland serves as the gateway to that profound self-knowledge. This is not mere philosophy. It is an anatomical imperative, an intrinsic technology. The ancients didn't speculate, they possessed precise knowledge. The pyramids were not tombs, they were initiatory chambers, acoustic resonators designed to awaken dormant potential within. This awakening begins in the brain's core, within the pineal, where light is born not of the sun but of spirit. That persistent sense of incompleteness stems from an inner absence, not an external void. What you seek is not a belief system, but a vital connection, a direct, vibrant, luminous link to the very source of your being. This connection resides within a physical location awaiting your rediscovery. The spine. You have been led to believe that the divine resides somewhere distant, beyond the clouds, beyond the stars, in a realm inaccessible to mortal touch. But Thoth's teachings refute this notion. He imparted not a religion of external worship, but a science of embodied divinity. In his wisdom, the body is not a prison, but a portal, a living temple, intricately encoded with sacred geometry, alchemical currents, and hidden pathways. At the heart of this temple stands a pillar. Ancient Egyptians knew it as the Jed. Modern anatomy recognizes it as the spine. But Thoth understood its true essence, the Axis Mundi, the highway upon which spirit ascends and descends. The Jed transcends symbolism. It represents the awakened human, the being who has transmuted the base energies to the crown, igniting the inner sun. Every vertebra, every nerve channel, every breath is integral to this intricate system. The spine is not merely a structural support, it's a conductor of vital energy. Recognizing this, one understands that enlightenment is not accidental. It's a deliberate orchestration, achieved breath by breath, step by step. Thoth's methodology doesn't involve escaping the body to reach higher planes. It demands complete immersion within it, mastering and aligning it. Until the body's internal network is activated, higher frequencies cannot anchor. The infinite is accessed not by circumventing the body, but by tuning it like a sacred instrument, with the pineal gland serving as its resonant crown. The process begins within the lower centers, the root, the sacrum. These are not mere chakras from New Age dogma. They are physiological locations with profound energetic consequences. They govern instinct, survival, and potent sexual energy. This energy is not meant for suppression, but for refinement and elevation. Misunderstanding leads to endless indulgence or complete denial, both of which are traps. Thoth advocated a third path, transmutation. With stillness of breath and clarity of intention, this energy begins its upward ascent, spiraling and winding like the serpents of Hermes Caduceus, like the strands of DNA. This is not allegory. It's a blueprint. The Jed is a tangible reality. As energy ascends its shaft, it activates gland after gland until it reaches the pineal. You were never meant to rely on external authorities to access the divine. You were designed for direct experience through your own internal system. The elegance of this design is breathtaking. The spine, the brain, the nervous system, none of it is arbitrary. It's sacred architecture. The spine's very form echoes the staff of power, the magician's wand, Hermes Caduceus, and the central pillar of the temple. All encoded, all awaiting your remembrance of its function. To unlock this potential, one must first discard the notion that the body is ordinary. It is the most advanced vehicle in existence, and Thoth left the instruction manual, written not in plain text but in symbols, geometry, and vibration. The Ankh transcends ornamentation. It's a cipher. The Eye of Horus is not a myth, but a map of your brain. The Jed is not a religious relic, but the secret spine of the soul. You inhabit a temple more powerful than any structure on earth, crowned by the pineal gland, the lamp within the tower. But until you ignite the inner current, the lamp remains dark. This distinguishes belief from experience. One can study ancient texts endlessly, but without engaging the body as the instrument it was designed to be, the mysteries remain veiled. Thoth's teachings are not theoretical, they are practical, a direct living embodied gnosis. Therefore, when you are told to abandon the body to find God, remember Thoth's wisdom. Descend into your temple, for only then can you, the sacred, rise. Within you lies a substance more precious than gold. The ancients recognized it. Thoth alluded to it without explicitly naming it, for the sacred is never carelessly dispensed. They called it the oil of light, the sacred secretion, the Christos. Every human produces it, yet its nature and purpose remain largely unknown. This secretion originates in the claustrum, a small region of the brain, and descends through the spinal cord, attuned to the lunar cycle. This is not metaphorical, it's biochemical, physical, and real. However, like all profound truths, it has been cloaked in allegory, misinterpreted by religions, and scorned by modern science. Knowing the oil's potential would redirect you from seeking external salvation to safeguarding your own sacred inner flow. The ancient Egyptians understood the brain not merely as a processor of thought, but as the divine throne within the body. They knew of a fluid that, when preserved and elevated, would return to its source, illuminating the mind with divine light. This fluid persists within you. The truth that remains unacknowledged is this. Monthly, if your body is attuned, a seed is formed in your solar plexus, a nascent spark of creative potential. This seed requires the sacred oil to ascend. When it rises undisturbed, passing through the spinal column and activating glands along its path, it arrives at the pineal gland, where it undergoes transmutation. The oil becomes light, the body transforms into a temple, and the initiate awakens. This underscores the ancient emphasis on self-discipline. Not because pleasure is inherently wrong, but because energy is inherently sacred. Ejaculation, excess, stress, anger, and negative emotions deplete the body of this vital fluid. Without the oil, the seed cannot rise. Without the seed, the light remains dormant. The modern world is meticulously designed to disrupt this process through overstimulation, addiction, poor nutrition, toxic media, and perpetual distraction. A body depleted of this oil lacks sufficient light for awakening, and an unawakened population is easily managed, exploited, and controlled. Thoth's intentions were not control, but initiation, guiding those willing to walk the narrow path, those who grasp that alchemy pertains not merely to metals, but to the refinement of the self. The sacred secretion is your internal goal, the liquid fire that, when revered, ignites the pineal. Verification lies not in belief, but in mindful living, preserving inner energy and observing the resulting transformation. As the oil ascends, thoughts sharpen, dreams intensify, instincts heighten, and the veil thins. Ancient traditions associate this process with resurrection, the phoenix, and the rebirth of Christ. This does not refer to literal death, but to the death of ignorance, the moment when light reclaims its throne and the inner eye opens. This concept is encoded in major texts and symbols. The land flowing with milk and honey represents your brain, the pituitary, and the pineal, secreting sacred substances when aligned. The prodigal son symbolizes the seed returning home after being lost within the lower centers. Bethlehem, the house of bread, is your solar plexus, the birthplace of the seed. 3 days in the tomb represent the oil's rest within the brain before transformation. These narratives were never about history. They were always about you. You have been conditioned to seek external signs and miracles, while the true miracle unfolds within your own anatomy, a biological process of such divine sophistication that it transmutes matter into spirit. This is not religion. It's sacred science, initiated when you cease dissipating your power and begin the path of preservation. The oil of light is finite and precious. Honoring and preserving it reveals why the world concealed its existence in the first. Symbols, place. Most perceive ancient symbols as art, myth, or mere decoration. The ankh is dismissed as a cross, the eye of Horus as superstition, the Jed pillar as a crude carving. Thoth never trivialized symbols. He imbued them with encoded knowledge, functional, applicable, physiological knowledge. Not abstract concepts, but maps, tools, and keys. Deciphering these glyphs transforms them from inert images to living instructions. Symbols transcend worship, their purpose is activation. Consider the Eye of Horus, segmented into 6 parts, each corresponding to a human sense: sight, sound, taste, touch, thought, and intuition. Overlooking this connection is common. Superimposing the Eye of Horus onto a cross-section of the human brain reveals an exact anatomical match. The thalamus, corpus callosum, pineal, and pituitary all find their precise representation. This is not accidental, but rather a testament to anatomical precision, a hidden code preserved for millennia. The ankh, often mistaken for a religious icon or symbol of life, functions as more than a mere representation. The upper circle symbolizes the pineal gland, the 0 point, the sun, the receiver. The vertical line represents the spine, the jed pillar. The horizontal bar, the arms of the cross, signifies the balance between the physical and energetic bodies. This is both a symbol and a diagram, depicting the same process that mystics, initiates, and yogis strive to embody: the raising of inner energy, the awakening of the eye, and the birth of spiritual light within the skull. Symbols speak to the subconscious in a language that bypasses logic, embedding directly into the energetic field. Their ubiquity in temples, jewelry, manuscripts, and daily tools serves a purpose. Surrounding oneself with symbols of alignment triggers remembrance within the body, initiating a response that awakens dormant systems. Thoth taught not only through words, but through architecture, geometry, sound, and rhythm, encoding frequency into stone. The pyramids weren't built to appease deities, but to resonate with Earth's natural harmonics, creating an environment that amplified inner stillness. Initiates would lie within the chambers, listening not with their ears but with their bones, their cells, and their consciousness. Every angle, proportion, and chamber mirrored the human body's structure, stimulating its latent capacities. Symbolism is a science, not the kind learned in laboratories, but the sacred science of how consciousness operates through matter. Geometry transcends mathematics. It's the blueprint of creation. The spiral, circle, and triangle universally express the energetic patterns within. Meditation within specific shapes alters one's energy field. Chanting specific sounds shifts brain frequencies. Rhythmic breathing aligned with sacred proportion realigns the nervous system. Thoth's teachings endure not because doctrine was preserved, but because the shapes, forms, and codes survived. Even when texts were burned and languages lost, the symbols persisted, carved into rock, etched into consciousness, awaiting those who would cease seeing them as art and begin utilizing them as instruction. Comprehensive understanding is not immediately necessary. Simply acknowledge that the same geometry present in the pyramids, temples, and ancient scrolls exists within your body, your bones, your organs, and your breath patterns. All adhere to the same ratios. You are not random but architectural, and your awakening stems not from adopting new beliefs but from activating ancient memory and symbols of the doorway. Therefore, the next time you encounter the eye, the ankh, or the jed, transcend mere observation and feel its resonance. It's not asking to be decoded, but to be remembered, for a part within already knows it's the inner sun, meaning. Concealed beneath sand and time, cloaked in metaphor and mystery, the emerald tablets of Thoth transcend relics of a forgotten civilization. They are transmissions, encoded instructions for those with the vision and the will to awaken from the slumber of the physical world. Central to these teachings is the path to igniting the inner sun. Thoth speaks of ascending from darkness into light, of residing dormant within the halls of Amenti, awaiting the call of consciousness. Literal interpretations often conjure images of a mythological underworld, a realm of fantasy. However, the truth is more grounded and profoundly powerful. The halls of Amenti are not a subterranean location, but the deeper recesses of your own mind, dormant neural pathways, latent circuits within your body's energy system, lying fallow in the forgotten corners of consciousness. As remembrance dawns, these halls illuminate not metaphorically but tangibly. The inner sun is not a poetic expression, but the pineal gland at full activation, a bioelectrical center that emanates its own subtle light. It produces DMT, a molecule that defies complete scientific explanation. It receives and transmits frequencies that transcend the physical spectrum, bridging dimensions. Upon activation, the veil dissolves. Perception shifts from a collection of objects to interconnected patterns, energies, and truths. Illusion is recognized for its true nature, freeing you from the control of what has been defined as reality. Thoth never advocated escaping the body. He taught that transcendence arises through embodiment, through stillness, intention, and purification. His tablets emphasize mastering the self before commanding the elements, aligning with cosmic law before seeking power. The path is not one of domination, but of resonance. Pineal activation requires resonance with your authentic self, not the fabricated narrative, the imposed role, but the pure awareness underlying it all. The inner sun does not ignite amid distraction, excess, and disconnection from breath. It dawns when returning to stillness, honoring your natural cycles and rhythms, silencing the cacophony, and sensing the frequency beneath the silence. This is not a passive experience, but an energetic ignition. Your spine becomes the altar, your breath the prayer, and your pineal the flame. The tablets describe the transmutation of humanity into light, not in theory but in essence. As the oil ascends, energies align and circuits clear, the light within begins to flow, ascending the spine, touching the brain, opening the inner eye. The initiate transforms, becoming not more nor better, but more real, more whole, no longer fragmented by belief, trauma, and programming, but reintegrated into the source from which all things originate. Thoth wrote in code because the mind alone cannot grasp this truth. It must be felt, lived, and experienced. Awakening cannot be achieved through mere reading. It demands action, preserving energy, raising the current, and igniting the lamp. The emerald tablets were meant for application, not veneration. While the language may be complex and the symbols obscure, the message is clear. You are not a passive observer, but a cosmic instrument designed to channel light through form. When that inner sun rises, external validation and systemic definitions become irrelevant. You become your own source of knowledge, your own guide. Thoth aimed to transmit not a doctrine or a religion, but the memory of your own inherent light. Recalling it renders you forever beyond control. The war on the pineal. The absence of this knowledge within established systems of education, religion, and even science is deliberate. The dismissal of the pineal gland as a vestigial relic, the ridicule of ancient teachings as mere mythology, and the reduction of symbols like the Eye of Horus to fashion accessories are not accidental. The issue is not that the knowledge is flawed, but that its power, when wielded by the individual, threatens the very foundations of control. Thoth's wisdom was not suppressed due to its inherent danger, but because of its liberating potential. It empowers sovereignty, self-awareness, and immunity to manipulation. The world that has evolved in the absence of this wisdom thrives on obedience, not awakening. From birth, conditioning cultivates external dependence for truth, seeking answers from institutions, experts, and doctrines. However, these paths divert inward, replacing temples with churches and sacred geometry with walls of fear and guilt. Breathwork is replaced with confession, energy preservation with shame, and inner knowledge with blind faith. Alchemical transformation is demonized as sin, and sacred symbols are twisted into warning signs. Anything that redirects focus inward is deemed perilous. Questioning authority is branded as rebellion. Those who claim to harbor inner light are crucified, silenced, or transformed into symbols of passive suffering. The war on the pineal gland is a tangible reality, manifested through fluoride in water, processed foods that numb the nervous system, and a culture that glorifies overstimulation and mocks stillness. It is a matrix designed to prevent the inner lamp from ever being lit. Pineal awakening dissolves illusion, lifting the veil. You cease requiring permission to exist, chasing validation, and seeing through the systems that trap you in cycles of work, consumption, fear, doubt, and repetition. Why has ancient knowledge been driven underground? Why are the Hermetic teachings shrouded in secrecy, the emerald tablets encoded in metaphor, and Eastern sacred texts relegated to exotic curiosities rather than serious tools for transformation? Authentic awakening needs no intermediary, generates no profit, and requires no hierarchy. It serves neither the state, the corporation, nor organized religion, but only the individual. This independence poses a profound threat. Docility, distraction, addiction, and misalignment are encouraged, while those who preserve their sacred energy and turn inward become rare and unshakable. They are immune to false narratives, self-worth dependence, and waiting for permission to live. They remember their true nature. Ancient symbols are dismissed as fantasy. Mysticism is equated with madness, and science neglects the pineal gland beyond its melatonin regulation. Acknowledging the gland's true potential threatens the entire foundation upon which the current worldview rests. That crack allows the entrance of Thoth's light, the same light residing within you. Seeing through the world does not require rejection, but rather ceasing to allow it to define your limitations. No natural law mandates conformity or forgetting your origin. What is unnatural is the cultivated ignorance of your own intelligence, power, and connection to something higher. The tragedy lies in the unconscious acceptance of this programming. However, it is not irreversible. Awakening arises not from anger, but from clarity, from the conscious choice to redirect energy inward, rather than dissipating it into systems that thrive on fear. This choice ends the war, not by systemic surrender, but by ceasing to fight on its terms, by ceasing to feed it with attention. The greatest fear is not violent revolution, but silent remembrance. An awakened being cannot be controlled, and the collective gathering of such individuals reaches a tipping point where old structures crumble, not through destruction, but through the withdrawal of belief. This path is not easy. Awakening strips away illusions, comforts, and escape routes, demanding honesty and courage, not the celebrated kind, but the quiet fortitude to see things as they are and move forward with an open heart. This courage fosters compassion, understanding that those still asleep are not enemies, but rather reflections of your former self, awaiting awakening. Your presence, light, and commitment to truthfulness become the guiding force, surpassing the power of mere words. The system is not merely collapsing, but being outgrown. Those who carry light are the architects of the future, building not from ego or ideology, but from coherence, resonance, and the shared knowing of interconnectedness, where activating light within oneself illuminates the light in others, amplifying the collective. The world transforms not through mass awakening, but through the profound remembrance and consistent embodiment of a few. This is Thoth's promised return, not to a place or a temple, but to a state of being, a return to source, to truth, and to the divine spark within every heart. When that spark ignites, it illuminates the way for others. There is no need to force change, simply embody it, allowing your life to serve as evidence, your energy as transmission, and your presence as a constant reminder. The light was never truly lost. It remains within each of us, waiting to be rekindled. The secret technique. This path rests not on belief, but on consistent practice. Thoth left not mere temples for veneration, but blueprints, coded rituals, symbols, and geometry to activate inner potential. The technique is not mystical, but mechanical, a refined physiological and energetic process capable of awakening what lies dormant within every human being. Modern minds often seek shortcuts, quick fixes, and instant enlightenment, but this is not how the process unfolds. There is no pill, app, or hack, only you, your breath, your body, and your focused attention. The technique begins with the foundational element. Breath, not the shallow, unconscious breathing of most, but conscious, rhythmic, and refined breathing. Breath carries life force, known to the ancients as prana, chi, or shum. Thoth taught that raising energy up the jed, the spine, requires mastering the breath, which serves as the pump, the activator. Each inhale draws in potential, while each exhale purifies stagnation. The focus extends beyond mere oxygen exchange to cultivating awareness, drawing attention inward, aligning body and mind, and preparing the temple for sacredness. Stillness follows. In a world addicted to movement, stillness wields immense power. Cerebrospinal fluid, the sacred secretion, ascends in stillness. As breath slows, the spine elongates and the nervous system relaxes. This fluid begins its upward flow. This is not magic, but physics. Preserving inner energy through retention, fasting, and discipline builds charge within the lower centers, which then seeks to rise, spiral, and climb, with the spine serving as its staircase. The process is both biological and electrical. The spine is rich with nerves and communication channels. When breath aligns with intention and energy is retained rather than dispersed, an electromagnetic field is generated within the body. This measurable field alters brain waves, heart coherence, and hormonal balance. As the field intensifies, the pineal gland, nestled deep within the brain, begins to stir. The pineal is composed of tiny piezoelectric crystals that respond to pressure and vibration. As cerebrospinal fluid rises and bathes the pineal, and as breath and stillness align, a charge is created, activating the crystals. Their vibration sends signals through the nervous system and beyond, reaching dimensions that have been forgotten. This represents the ancient tradition's concept of the awakening of the inner sun, a deep illumination, surpassing a mere flash of insight. The gland emanates its sacred chemistry, manifesting as pressure in the head, subtle light behind closed eyes, and knowing that transcends the mind. Time dissolves, transcending the confines of the room to encompass all rooms, and names yield to essence. Thoth described this as transcending the flesh, journeying through the gates of space, and merging with the all, describing the full activation of the human system. Multidimensionality becomes accessible. Time ceases to be linear, and space loses its fixed nature. Illusion is exposed through the opened inner eye. This technique is not a singular event, but a way of living, aligning actions to support the rise of energy. Eating nourishes light, not craving. Breathing awakens, not merely sustains. Meditation engages deeply with the world from a place of clarity, rather than providing escape. This embodies the path of the initiate, taking responsibility for the inner fire and guiding it towards illumination. When this practice becomes ingrained, the surrounding world shifts, not because it has changed, but because your perception has. You no longer see with eyes of flesh alone, but with the eye of light. What once seemed impossible begins to manifest as the natural consequence of remembering your true, the return, self. A serene stillness follows awakening, where everything seems both familiar and novel. The same streets are traversed, faces are seen, and news is heard, yet a profound shift has occurred. The veil has thinned, the patterns become apparent, the marketing of fear, the manufacturing of division, and the busyness designed to prevent questioning the true destination of energy. The realization dawns not only of the previous state of slumber, but also of the continued sleep of so many. This initiates the true work, for this path was never meant to end within oneself. Awakening is not the destination, but the commencement of a return. The opening of the inner eye expands vision beyond personal goals, revealing the architecture of the collective dream and its desperate need for lucid dreamers. The question shifts from, how can I escape the system? To, how can I transform it? Thoth did not advocate isolation. His wisdom was intended for transmission. Bearing light transforms presence into a message. Embodiment, rather than preaching, stirs curiosity, resonance, and the same awakening that once occurred within you. This aligns personal awakening with collective evolution, where inner alignment ripples outward. Each instance of seeing through illusion weakens its grip, not through violence or outrage, but through clarity, stillness, and unwavering truth. This is why awakened individuals are feared not for their loudness, but for their uncontainable nature. Their collective gathering reaches a tipping point where old structures crumble, not through destruction, but through the withdrawal of belief. This path is not easy. Awakening strips away illusions, comforts, and escape routes, demanding honesty and courage, not the celebrated kind, but the quiet fortitude to see things as they are and move forward with an open heart. This courage fosters compassion, understanding that those still asleep are not enemies, but rather reflections of your former self, awaiting awakening. Your presence, light, and commitment to truthfulness become the guiding force, surpassing the power of mere words. The system is not merely collapsing, but being outgrown. Those who carry light are the architects of the future, building not from ego or ideology, but from coherence, resonance, and the shared knowing of interconnectedness, where activating light within oneself illuminates the light in others, amplifying the collective. The world transforms not through mass awakening, but through the profound remembrance and consistent embodiment of a few. This is Thoth's promised return, not to a place or a temple, but to a state of being, a return to source, to truth, and to the divine spark within every heart. When that spark ignites, it illuminates the way for others. There is no need to force change. Simply embody it, allowing your life to serve as evidence, your energy as transmission, and your presence as a constant reminder. The light was never truly lost. It remains within each of us, waiting to be rekindled. Conclusion: the knowing, the connection have been present since inception. Hidden, yes, beneath layers of conditioning, fear, noise, and forgetfulness, but not extinguished. The pineal gland, the inner eye, and the direct access to the infinite have always been quietly pulsing, awaiting not the right belief or a sign from the sky, but the choice to turn inward and ignite the lamp with your own breath, intention, and will. Thoth's teachings are not fantasy, but physics, the sacred law that governs the inner and the outer, the above and the below. Walking the path, practicing the discipline, and preserving what is sacred within reveals a profound truth. Awakening was never something to be attained, but rather the inherent state of being. The path is feared not because of its difficulty, although it challenges every preconceived notion, but because it engenders responsibility, not to the system or to external rules, but to one's own light and truth. Experiencing this light rising, feeling the energy surging, and witnessing the gland opening transforms existence, rendering numbness, distraction, and the pretense that this world is all that exists untenable. The veil has been pierced, revealing an ancient truth that resonates deeply. The great irony lies in the realization that everything sought peace, meaning, truth, and purpose resides within. The temples were built in your image, the symbols were carved to mirror your anatomy, and the texts were written to remind you of the knowledge already encoded within your cells. You were never meant to worship Thoth, the pyramids, or the gods, but rather to embody them, to live what they represent, and to utilize the keys left in stone and scripture to unlock your own consciousness. True initiation lies not in rituals, robes, or titles, but in remembrance, embodiment, and living as light in human form. Having heard this and felt something stirring within, the question becomes simple. What will you do? Will you allow it to fade back into concept? Or will you breathe into it, practice it, walk it, and allow it to become real? Perfection is not required on this path, only presence. Honor what is rising within, for each moment of choosing inner alignment over outer distraction fuels the fire. Every breath taken in stillness brings you closer to ignition, and every act of remembering that your body is a temple and your mind a gateway dismantles a piece of the illusion. So to bring it all together, remember this: the potential for profound awakening resides within you. The power to ignite your inner sun, to unlock the wisdom of the ancients, and to connect with the infinite isn't some far-off promise, but a deeply personal journey, accessible through your own breath, intention, and embodied practice. It's about remembering who you truly are and shining that light out into the world. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated most with you? Do you have any questions about the pineal gland, the Jed pillar, or anything we've discussed? Leave a comment below and let's start a conversation. And if this resonated with you, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos exploring these fascinating realms. We're just scratching the surface and there's so much more to discover together.